Happy Friday the 13th. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new Winged Eagle podcast, episode 5. We are deep into these things now. How y'all doing? Oh, shit. Technical difficulties right off the bat. I got speakers on. Anyway, how y'all doing? Good to see you. Happy Friday. I figured I'd come up here and do this one prime time since I was off from my regular job. This is kind of a better time. Maybe more people are home from work and kicking back and ready to enjoy an awesome weekend. And you can start your weekend off right with an awesome podcast. We have got a ton of shit in the works tonight. Gosh, my notes are huge. Took me forever to type these things up. Obvious things that we're going to talk about tonight. Clash of Champions. We're going to predict the entire card. I'll probably do that more at the end. Big week of TV this week. Raw and SmackDown both emanated from the Garden, Madison Square Garden, for the first time in a long time. Both shows back to back. They both had some interesting things on there. Good shows. Some of it good. Some of it was a letdown. We'll talk about all of that. Run through those results. Talk about a ton of news. Anthem has purchased a majority stake in AXS TV, and Impact will begin programming on there next month. We've got some Killer Kross news, a lot of WWE announcer changes being rumored. When SmackDown moves over to Fox, WWE is going to start shuffling some things around. We'll talk about that. Some of these rumors are kind of interesting and kind of intriguing, and I'm actually excited for the change. We'll probably talk a little bit about the draft as well. We might talk about a little bit of AEW news I wanted to mention because I don't think I mentioned it last week, that Cody Rhodes is getting the title shot against Chris Jericho at Full Gear coming up on November 9th. That's kind of interesting, and I like that they're doing the Cody title shot now, and figured I might talk a little bit about that as well. But we'll also discuss the Raw stuff, the Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins stuff, and Bray Wyatt, and the meaning behind this 11-19. And I just thought about this when I was making my notes. We're going to talk about the 11-19 in a minute, but on the East Coast, pay-per-views and Clash of Champions starts at 4 p.m., or I'm sorry, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If the pay-per-view runs for 4 hours and 19 minutes, it will end at 11-19. What if they time it to do some sort of a wacky finish? It means we'd have to sit through a 4.5 hour fucking pay-per-view. But what if they time it to where right at 11-19, Bray Wyatt strikes and screws up the main event or something? I don't know, just a thought. A lot of people think it has to do with The Undertaker, but we'll talk about that too. And aside from that, I might just answer some more questions in the chat, or if anybody brings up any sort of wrestling news that I need to discuss or you think is worthy of discussing, we'll handle that here too. Speaking of the chat, as always in the podcasts, going to be paying minimal attention to it. I'll be reading it, and I'll answer all of these super chats. They may just come later on, and I might answer them in chunks. But for those of you who are always awesome to support, you will be answered. I just kind of handle these a little bit different than I do when I'm doing my live streams. But I have not said hi to you guys yet, so I want to make sure I'm down here and good. How y'all doing? Nobody's saying they can't see or hear me. That's pretty good. Audience-wise, low audience, way low. But that's cool. It's Friday night. Last week, did I do it on Friday night last week as well? I did. And it's going to be... This podcast is going to be moving to Saturdays. It's going to have to once SmackDown moves over to Fox. And that's coming up real soon in just a couple of weeks. I'm going to be at that first show on October 4th, by the way. If any of you are going to that and going to be around Staples Center that night, hit me up, DM me. I've already got a few DMs. We're definitely going to do some sort of a meet up with some fans at the show, and that's going to be fun. But right after that, I'm going to have to change up these podcasts and probably start doing these on Saturdays. So, look for that next month as well. What's going on, Ben and Hunter and Vontae and Addicted Chip and Old Sammy and Mac Ram? Hope y'all are having a great Friday night. And like I said yesterday on Twitter, don't go swimming in a lake naked by yourself tonight. I strongly recommend against it because it's going to be a full moon too. So it's Friday the 13th and it's a full moon. And a happy birthday to my grandfather, who would have been 108 years old today. He passed away in 2007. And thinking about my grandpa today, he was born on September 13th. Anyway, I think that's all for the pleasantries there. I kind of ran through the news that we're going to get into. As always, make sure you subscribe. Subscribers are still rolling in. We had a really great couple of weeks there where it was just a few dozen a day. And I'm like, all right. And then right around AEW, right around All Out, things like stalled for a few days, and now we're picking back up again. And the subs are rolling in. So if you're new, welcome. Thanks for hanging out, and for those of you who've been with me forever, thank you for your support, and thank you for your patience, because I know it's been a weird summer, and I haven't had a whole lot of other content on the channel lately in the last couple of weeks as well, and that'll be changing starting next week. Working on a couple of other projects, video ideas. I got a couple of This Day in History planned for the end of the month as well, so there will be some content, and I'm sorry for, kind of the lack of it other than these podcasts, because I have been busy. Ha! Nice. Thank you, everybody. And in the meantime, too, follow me over on Twitter. I cannot seem to gain any Twitter followers, but it's where I'm most vocal. If you want to hear my quick opinion on anything, shoot me a follow over on Twitter at GoodMicWork. And that's it. I'll stop boring you with the plugs. Oh, also, the audio to this will be up tonight. It won't be like a 6 or 7 hour delay like normal. I'm going to get this up as soon as the podcast is done, so you will be able to download this over on my website, and it'll be up on Spotify, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio, and all that stuff. Now, I'll shut up. Let's start rolling into the news, because I've got some interesting notes here, dudes. I put this at the top of the list. I don't know why, because I was just fascinated by it. And in a crazy turn of events, Seth Rollins tweets out randomly a couple days ago, guess what, y'all? I just found out that I have a brother and sister that I never knew about. And I guess he did the DNA deal with that 23andMe. And it's kind of like inspired me because, you know, I think maybe this is something we all should do. Like, that's crazy. Imagine, I don't know the brother and sister. He took a picture. He had a picture with him and his brother. It seemed like a young kid, athletic looking kid. Maybe he's a wrestling fan. Could you imagine if these kids, you know, brother and sister, however old they are, could you imagine if they are wrestling fans for any reason? We don't know. I haven't heard any other details on who these people are exactly. But what if they were like huge wrestling fans and then you find out that the WWE champion or the Universal champion is your fucking brother? How cool is that? So it's just crazy. You never know what's out there. And I immediately thought of, you know, myself because, you know, my dad fought in the Vietnam War and he recently passed away. And I've got a lot of his personal belongings and his personal effects. And as I go through these pictures, you know, he was a player, you know, and he had a few girlfriends when he was deployed. So, you know, maybe it's possible. I got a little Vietnamese half-brother sister out there running around somewhere. So it kind of made me think that, you know, I might swab my cheek and send that stuff in. Maybe we should all do it. But congrats to Seth. I'm hoping he's happy about this. I would assume that he is. I don't know the situation there, but I don't know how I'd feel. I guess it just depends on the situation. But if you find out so many years later, as you're an adult in your 30s, that you have a sibling that you never knew about, I think part of me would be, you know, overjoyed, but also a little bit pissed that I didn't know this previously. You know what I mean? So it's got to just be a strange situation in general and kind of crazy. And I just put that right at the top of my list of the news I wanted to talk about because I thought it was cool. Also, I want to move on to this big sale of AXS TV over to Anthem, which is crazy to me because Anthem, of course, owns Impact Wrestling, and you hear all these stories of Impact not being able to afford catering and water at their events, and there's all sorts of problems. They got all sorts of, you know, turmoil with Killer Kross and his contract, and the company is just like the wrestling promotion that will not die. And this is actually a positive move for them. They're going to start on AXS TV right after Bound for Glory, which I think is on October 20th. So right after that, they're going to be on there now, and they're also supplying New Japan is supplying programming to them too. If you want the full details on this, because this whole story is like really, really interesting, and shout out to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, who broke this down marvelously and almost like a little semi-rant. So if you want to check that out, you can go over to Fightful.com or his YouTube channel, and if you want to hear the actual details on this. But there is a fucked up side to it, and there is a little bit of like what ifs and what the F is going on type of thing. And unfortunately, I guess when the sale went through, as with all acquisitions, you know, you're going to have layoffs. And they laid off like 40 employees or something like that from AXS TV, two of which were Adam Swift and Cindy Ronzoni, who apparently were really instrumental in promoting wrestling on that channel and even brokering deals to get pro wrestling on there. And they were really probably two of the best people to have there, and they've been cut now that the merger has happened, or the acquisition has happened, which really sucks for the pro wrestling side of this TV station. So it's really kind of a weird thing now that you have Impact and New Japan, who kind of have a little bit of heat, you know, and what's going to happen there. New Japan's got a contract for the next year or so with AXS TV. So the whole situation is just kind of weird. And it's just another example of wrestling is just all over the place. You got WWE and AEW about to start a wrestling war on Wednesday nights and in general, and you still got other promotions making a lot of waves, you know. And you have TNA, a company that we thought has died. Like, how many near-death experiences, how many white lights has TNA seen? I mean, this company was a fraction of a hair away from just falling off the cliff, I don't know, half a dozen times in the last 10 years, and here they are now with a much better TV deal than anything that they've had in a long time. And, you know, who knows, maybe people can take a little bit of notice of Impact. I know, you know, for me personally, Impact and like Ring of Honor have been practically invisible. I haven't heard, I don't know what's going on with Ring of Honor, but they don't seem to be in the forefront like they used to be. And Impact, I never pay attention to. So the fact that there's positive news coming here for Impact and they're coming to a station that people actually watch, because all of their other TV deals, I believe, up until this point, have been on really, shitty networks and things like that. So this is a positive move for them, and I think maybe a positive move overall for wrestling. But also, when you kind of read the details of this, it has you scratching your head a little bit. And where did this come from? Mark Cuban, by the way, I think is the one that might have sold his stake to Anthem. He's got a financial stake in AXS TV. So does Steve Harvey, of all people. So it's a very strange situation. But after reading the story, I was really kind of interested in it a little bit, because how it might just further change the landscape of what we're seeing right now in wrestling. So pretty cool. And also, speaking of Impact, they've got all this turmoil with Killer Kross. And Killer Kross, I think we can all admit, is a star just sitting there, simmering, doing nothing really, because he's got some issues with TNA. He wants out of his contract. They're not letting him out of his contract. They're not letting him work other shows. There's even a big AAA show coming up on Madison Square Garden tomorrow, maybe Sunday, the 15th, I think. And they wouldn't let him work that. Ed Norholm is going out of his way to, cock block Killer Kross for many other bookings. He's got a few more months on his contract with an option for TNA to roll it over, which means he could be stuck there for another year and a half. So many things are stemming from this. There's been issues with supplying merchandise statements, or royalty statements for the boys quarterly, which they were not doing. Apparently, Killer Kross didn't really feel comfortable blading back at Slammiversary. There's been a hepatitis outbreak lately, and apparently Impact didn't have proper testing procedures in place, and he just didn't feel comfortable with it. He didn't want to do it. That probably also led to some of his heat. So he's got a lot of different situations, but the bottom line here is he does not want to be there. And it's frustrating because we hear this so many times. I'm going to talk about Luke Harper later on, but Luke Harper's in the same situation in WWE. He's just a magnificent piece of talent, and WWE is literally jerking off on his face and disrespecting the hell out of him. He wants to go, but they're not, number one, using him, and number two, not letting him go. What the F? So I think those are your two options there with Luke Harper. WWE, you assholes, put him on TV and use him, which is what he's there to do, or cut him loose. TNA, same goes for you. And this Killer Kross shit, he does not want to be there. He will not re-sign with you, regardless of how long he hangs around. So for you to do this, or for you to roll over his contract, you're doing that out of spite, and you're basically almost holding his career hostage when you just look at him. He's a very well-liked, well-respected guy. Everybody has positive things to say about Killer Kross, and we all want him to succeed. We all want him to do well, and he doesn't need our help. He's going to be a star, bottom line. But I'd like to see him not have to wait a year and a half for his career to cool off or the buzz to cool down. And when you hear shit like this, it's just, it's frustrating and it's irritating, because I want to see this guy get the hell out of that company and go somewhere else. And we can see him on a different platform where he can flourish. Doesn't have to be in WWE. I am years away from wanting Killer Kross in WWE. First of all, name's Killer. That's probably going to have to go out the window. So I want to see this guy in Japan. Jesus Christ. My webcam just went down on this computer. Wouldn't work. So I switched it over to the old webcam, and then there was some sort of a lag. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to have to use the old machine. And I got to turn this off. I'm hoping that y'all can still hear me when I do that. So yeah, hopefully the technical difficulties all have worked out, but I've got a new webcam on the way, a replacement webcam. It was past the warranty day, but I called and pitched to fit, so they are sending me a new one. I've just got to wait for that to get here, and then I can go back. So those of you who were with me last Monday night for the Raw stream, I had all sorts of fucking technical difficulties, and it was annoying as hell. So I apologize for more of that. I'm still I got a Band-Aid on this thing. That's why I wanted to do the dueling desktops. That way I have a backup plan if something ever goes down, but, I'm still an amateur when it comes to these computers and these gizmos and these gadgets, you know what I mean? Sometimes I don't know really what I'm doing. So I'm doing my best. But anyway, back to my notes. But as it relates, back to this Killer Kross story, I don't know who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Impact, if you sign a contract with them, they can hold you to that contract. But I'm hoping that he can find some sort of a loophole where they have breached it, or, with them not doing some of the things they were supposed to do, it's able to get him out of there. Because I would just hate to see a guy, because when you're a wrestler, you have a window. You can't just be burning years sitting around. That's why the Luke Harper shit frustrates me so much. He doesn't have the time to sit around because this company he works for is a bunch of dickheads. So with Killer Kross, I don't want to see him have to go through this. Let him get out of there. It's just the right thing to do. And I know that's not how business works. That's why I'm not in business. That's why I never ventured in to that career, because I hate business. If you're wearing a suit, I don't even want to talk to you. So I just don't like it. I refuse to tuck shirts in. I won't even do that. So I just don't like anything about the business world at all. And sometimes I think people should just cut their losses. And if you're not going to use him, now, if they think they can make money off of Killer Kross and they've got him signed to a contract, then yes, by all means, it's your right. Put him out on TV and make some money off him, sell some tickets. But if you're just having him sit there and you're going to roll over his contract for him to sit on his ass because you are a douchebag, then fuck you. I have no respect for you. I hope your company goes down in flames. But best of luck to Killer Kross. I hope whatever winds up happening with him, he's able to get out of this thing prior to 16 months from now. And we can see him go on to bigger and better things, because the dude is a stud. Let me go over to the chat, because there's a big story here pertaining to the WWE commentary teams. A lot of shuffling around apparently is going to be in the works now that the draft is coming up. NXT's moving to USA. SmackDown's moving to Fox. Lots of changes going on, and WWE is hopefully going to start making these brands feel a little bit more exclusive, because every single brand extension they've done has not felt that way. And hopefully this might be our one chance to actually achieve that, if what we are hearing turns out to be true. But before we get into that, I'm going to go over here and just answer a couple of super chats, because I have seen some popping up, and I don't want to be a dick and not support or not talk to my supporters. Anyway, where are we at? Spaz Phoenix, I think I got one from you. There you are, my brother. Thank you for the $10 Canadian. You are the man. Great show as always, Greg. Cheap plug. I've got 2 long-form videos up on the channel. One on the potential negative fallout of the Sasha Banks return, and one previewing upcoming Wednesday Night Wars. Now's a good time to watch that stuff, because the NXT kicks off next week, correct? So go check out Spaz Phoenix's YouTube channel. Great guy. He's good people. Give him a subscription and check out his videos and listen to his insights. See what he has to say. He actually, I know you watch Spaz a lot more NXT than I do. So if you want some NXT dirt, go check that dude out. Dominique Richardson, thank you for the $5, brother. Good to see you in here as well. When are you starting up Patreon again? I got $100 ready for the John Cena video. Dude, it's I'm revamping the Patreon page. Whole new Patreon page. We're going to try to take it a little bit more seriously. And once I get a little bit more traction on there and a few more patrons, I can maybe start doing weekly or even daily quick, little videos coming up just for you guys and all that shit. So I actually have a Word document opened up with just Patreon ideas, jotting them down. And I don't like to push the Patreon too hard, since I'm not doing anything with it. But I've had patrons on there for years, and I want to reward you guys, those of you who've been with me on Patreon, who, aside from maybe a Twitter follow, I haven't really done a whole lot for. And a lot of other podcasters and YouTubers are very involved with Patreon. And for me, it just boils down to like time, how much time I have. And, that's something that kind of falls by the wayside. But I need to get back into that because it's useful for YouTubers like me. Anyway, all right, that's enough there. I didn't miss anything. And I'll go back and check again to make sure I didn't miss anything later on. Like I said, big WWE creative changes have already happened. We've not heard too much about Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff in the roles. We've seen Paul Heyman's fingerprints on WWE TV. That's been clear. And we've even heard a few stories here or there, even as recent as the Cedric Alexander push apparently is being backed by Paul Heyman. Bischoff, on the other hand, I don't know. We haven't seen that great of SmackDowns. I don't know if anybody's speculating that I did see a report that maybe he's on the hot seat. How's that possible? He hasn't even started his job yet. And I said right before he even got there, which if I know this, WWE should know this, is that Paul Heyman is the one that's going to have the creative mind. Between these two, like Bischoff has the business sense. Heyman has got the creative sense, but no business sense at all. So Paul Heyman, I feel much more comfortable with as far as somebody being in charge of anything creative. So on Monday Night Raw, I feel pretty good because Heyman's in charge. But Bischoff, if he truly is the one directing the ship, I don't know if I've ever considered Bischoff to be a really, really creative guy. So I don't know how those changes are going behind the scenes. I don't know if WWE is happy with Heyman and not happy with Bischoff, only slightly happy with both of them, really happy with both of them, not happy with either of them. I really don't know. But I would hope that if Bischoff maybe isn't cutting the mustard, so to speak, creatively on SmackDown, that they give him some help and make some changes. And I believe they should have separate writing teams, which I think was the plan last week or the week before when the one head writer quit and they moved some guys around, moved one from SmackDown over to Raw or whatever. I think the plan is to have exclusive creative teams, which they should. They should not be mixed together. And same goes for the commentary teams. And it does sound like they might be going back to brand exclusive commentary teams, which I don't think they should have ever stopped. I could not believe when they did the brand split in 2016, you had Corey Graves and Michael Cole on both shows. That drove me crazy. I probably mentioned it in every podcast. Every one. I mean, it drove me nuts. I'm like, why the fuck are these guys on both shows? This is stupid. So anyway, according to the WrestleVotes Twitter account on Wednesday, they tweeted out a couple of things about this. And so far, they're the only ones to really break this, I think. But this is what their Twitter account had to say on Wednesday. Hearing that significant changes are coming to the commentary teams once SmackDown to Fox move happens in a couple of weeks, all shows will be impacted, including Raw. A source has said the return of the two-man booth is coming. That's big. That's big. I would love to see a two-man booth again. They then later say, they tweet out later on, the plans as of now for the new announced teams include Michael Cole heading to SmackDown on Fox, and I'm also told Vic Joseph is set to become the lead man on Monday Night Raw. Vic Joseph, now he got that little stint, he got that little tryout when Corey Graves was out on vacation, right? You know, maybe that was a little, I said that when he was out there, I'm like, do you think that's a little test for any reason? And we mentioned the brand, or the draft and the brand extension and all of that. So Vic Joseph, if that turns out to be true, it's just rumor at this point. WWE has confirmed absolutely nothing. But if Vic Joseph goes over to Monday Night Raw, I think that's great. It's a fresh voice. I think he's good. I hope he can handle the job. I hope he can handle Captain Psycho at Gorilla screaming in his ear like a fucking baboon. If he can handle that and manage that, he'll be all right. And he's a nice, refreshing voice. I think everybody likes Vic Joseph. And we've got Nigel McGuinness now heading over to NXT full-time to work with Mauro Ranallo and Beth Phoenix, giving Aiden English more of a chance on 205 Live. And then if you're moving Cole and Renee to SmackDown and you put Vic Joseph and Corey Graves on Raw, they could be your modern-day Jesse and Vince. I don't know. They might be fun together, just the two of them. And as much as I like the idea of the two-man booth, one thing that does make me nervous is if they do move Renee over to SmackDown, I don't know if Renee Young and Michael Cole are the best two-man team or two-person team. I don't know. I think you would need a third one there. So maybe one show you do a two-man booth, the other show you do a three-man booth, just to give it a different feel. That might be good. And if you have Renee and Cole together, maybe you throw somebody else in there with them. It could be possible that Renee leaves commentary altogether because there is talk of an FS1 show, kind of like Talking Smack when they did that on the network, which they should have never stopped. But Renee was the host of that, and that was a great role for her. That was a great show. We enjoyed it as fans. Most of us were pissed when they decided to can it. We didn't understand why. So if they bring back a version of that now on FS1, that's a much bigger deal than the show that they were doing on the network. So I'm in favor of all of these moves if they do turn out to be true, and it's probably not going to be exactly the way they're wording it here, but I think that WWE is obviously going to make some changes in the announced teams, and they better have this shit figured out. I mean, October 4th is right around the corner. I hope WWE, whatever they plan on doing, they already have decided it. I hope they're still not thinking about it. Dudes, you got to get it together, man. Oh, Spaz, thank you for another super chat as I see that here on the other monitor. Thoughts on NXT absorbing the 205 Live talent and being the new home of the Cruiserweight title. Yeah, I was going to talk about that too. That's in my notes because when NXT moves to USA, we've seen recently that they're going to be beefing up their roster. And I've got some NXT notes to make because I did watch the Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler match, which was awesome. Why don't we just talk about that now? Fuck it. Let me go because I don't want to stop now and then go back to it later. Let me scroll down to my NXT notes here. So I checked out the Shayna Baszler Rhea Ripley match, which I thought was great. I'm glad that it ended in a DQ because they did it on TV, and I think that should be a takeover match. As of now, I don't believe that's booked for the first USA show. They've got they got Roderick Strong and Velveteen, and I think a women's match. So the card already looks good with some takeover potential matches. I'd rather save Baszler and Ripley for takeover because you guys know me, like when I've been rooting and predicting Baszler to win every title defense she's had because I haven't really wanted to see anybody that she's faced beat her. I didn't want to see Bianca Belair or Io Shirai or anybody defeat her. I just didn't want to see that. So I like Baszler. I don't want to see her run continue. And I want to just wait till she runs into some quality opponent that I can feel like, yeah, she's going to take her down. And there is no better example of this than this badass Rhea Ripley. She doesn't give an F. And she took it right to Baszler, zero fear. and she's a badass. She'd kick my ass if I fought her. So I think Ripley is not only like a bubbling star, but she's also somebody that I think can be a credible challenger to Baszler. And if you're finally looking to take the belt off of Baszler, put it on a new person, maybe move Baszler on. I don't know. She's probably done all she can do in NXT. And by the end of the year, maybe move her up to Raw or SmackDown. I don't want to say main roster anymore because apparently they're all the main rosters. But I'm ready to see this. I'm ready to see Rhea take the belt from her. And that's going to be great shit. And Ripley's credible. She's going to be a badass NXT champion. I think it's going to happen. And now I'm rooting for this change. Like before, I just didn't feel it. Every pay-per-view. You guys know, every takeover. I'm like, Baszler. I had people telling me I was crazy. Oh, that's stupid to keep having her win like this. You're not going to think it's stupid when Rhea Ripley finally beats her when this long run and she finally runs into somebody that can take her down. That's going to feel good, and it's going to make all that other shit worth it. And that's why I say, you guys don't want to blow your load so fast sometimes. Just got to simmer, take your time. You know what I mean? And this is going to be perfect, and I cannot wait. So I am rooting hard for Rhea Ripley. Whenever this match does officially happen, and it is for the title, I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see her take the title from her. Johnny Gargano, also on Wednesday, cut a promo to reveal his NXT future. Because, he's already kind of been brought up back in January to the main roster before they knew, NXT was maybe going to be moving over to the USA Network. So now they're going in reverse. Instead of sending people to the main roster, they're trying to beef up their talent. Like Spaz said, they're absorbing the 205 Live roster. The Cruiserweight title is going to be defended over there. That's great. If it's going to be a 2-hour show, you don't want to water down or dilute your product with just, the few people now having to supply 2 hours of TV a week. You add some more talent to it and beef it up a little bit. And there's also rumors of maybe Kevin Owens showing up there based on what we saw on SmackDown Live. So I'm excited. I think NXT might be the best show of all of them. AEW, Raw, SmackDown, Impact, all these shows. I think the best one of all of them might turn out to be NXT because WWE, to all these fans that think they're scared of All Elite Wrestling, boy, Vince is desperate. He's counter-programming AEW. That must mean he's scared. No, that means business. There's competition. There's viable competition out there now. They're starting on a major cable network. There's actually somebody that fans might want to watch in place of WWE. We haven't seen that very much. How much business did TNA really take away from WWE? Honestly, even at their peak, not much. So AEW, they feel a little bit more credible to us. And WWE, it has nothing. It just cracks me up that people say fear. You understand that Vince McMahon is a third generation promoter? You know how long wrestling has been in his family and will continue to be? He spread his seed throughout his kids, who then spread it throughout their kids. They are so ingrained. They have, 5 separate brands, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, NXT UK. They've got 3 cable TV shows, a show on Fox, a movie studio, their own network where they can fucking give away pay-per-views for $9. Vince is worth $2.8 billion, and he is scared of AEW. Get your head out your ass. I want AEW to succeed as much as the next guy, but that's absurd. This company can flex its muscles whenever it wants, and it has nothing to do with being scared. It has everything to do with them saying, we are bigger than you, and we can do what we want. You want to stack up a big card on your Wednesday night TNT show? Fine. Here's Matt Riddle versus AJ Styles. Enjoy. We can do whatever we want, and we've got the talent to do it. So I think that's what it is here. I think that's WWE saying, oh, you want to compare dick sizes? We win. Ours is down to the floor. So I think fans need to cut the shit with this Vince is scared and this is desperate. And whoever's telling you this, whoever's filling your heads with this, go tell them I think they're fucking stupid because that's crazy. Anyway, that's my little mini rant there. But what's cool about this is that it's going to beef up NXT and it's going to make it an amazing show. WWE actually might care about NXT because they're head-to-head. Raw and SmackDown doesn't seem like they care at all. They're rewriting scripts. We saw it again this past week. Vince McMahon tears up the script 2 hours before, maybe rewrites it. Maybe he didn't tear it up this week. He just rewrote it. So they have to rewrite the whole show hours before, just 2 hours before it's going live. They seem like they don't care over there. Maybe there's no AEW on Mondays and Fridays, or Mondays and Tuesdays right now. So with NXT, WWE's paying attention to AEW. They're here. Let's just show them. Let's just squash them before it even gets going. Because what's going to happen, AEW is the one in an uphill battle here. They have a TV deal now with TNT, which is awesome. And I think fans are going to tune in. I think it's going to be hot at first. They're doing great numbers. All Out was slightly down, I think, in the pay-per-view buys, but you got to remember Moxley and Omega was canceled. That definitely affected it. So they're still doing good numbers. They're still selling tickets. I think their TV show is going to do good ratings at first, but can they maintain it? Because we know NXT will. We know NXT can give us great shows. We've seen that for several years now. AEW hasn't started yet. I think they're going to have a great 2019. I think they're going to have a great October, November, and December because we're going to be into it. Can they sustain it? 1 year from now, 1 year from this day today, how is the AEW show going to be? Is it going to be getting better ratings than when it first started or worse ratings when it first started? What do you guys think? Because that's what you have to think about. You have to think long term. Where are they going to be a year from now? How are they going to do this? What kind of great wrestling are we going to see between now and then, between AEW and WWE, where they're countering each other? WWE is going to stack a big card, so AEW is going to stack one back. That's when you get the surprises. You know, maybe WWE's got an awesome, or maybe NXT's got an awesome card one week. AEW doesn't have as great of a card, but maybe they debut a defecting talent or somebody that recently left NXT or a popular signee and have them come out just to create a little buzz. And you got people talking about both shows, just like back in Raw and Nitro days, because there were plenty of weeks where both shows were awesome. And that's what we have to look forward to. You know how psyched I am? I'm not off on Wednesday nights. I don't think I can pull that off, but I would love to be and watch this shit every week. Maybe I should cancel the Monday Night Raw streams and start doing NXT streams on Wednesdays. I'll start working Mondays and being off Wednesdays. I don't know. But I'm excited for it, you know. So I don't think, like I've said before, I've said this in many podcasts, I don't think any sides need to be taken. I don't think WWE fanboys need to attack AEW people and vice versa. I think that's stupid. When you're fighting amongst yourselves, you're too busy and preoccupied and you're missing all this great wrestling that's in front of you. So shut the fuck up, stop fighting, enjoy your wrestling. It's about as good as it's ever been and probably ever going to be in your fucking life. So be happy. Anyway, that's the NXT news I have written down there. Let me get back to my news and notes here before we head into Raw. Then we'll talk about SmackDown Live, and then I will predict the Clash. And before I get into those shows, I'll go up here and answer the several super chats that I see rolling in my peripherals. I talked about the commentary switches. I think that all that is fantastic. I'm excited about those guys getting opportunities. Also, I've written down here that Kurt Angle has a new WWE role. PW Insider reported that he is now working full-time as a producer. Good for him. We knew he was back there. We knew he was probably going to be an agent or something. Angle, I'm surprised he's there as a producer. I think that, could you imagine if they sent him down to Florida and be like, hey, you and Shawn Michaels, train everybody. Even their developmental has better talent than everywhere else in the world. Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle down there training motherfuckers. So yeah, good for Kurt Angle. I'm glad he's there. There's so many legends with backstage jobs there. You know, I even mentioned that when they did that big hiring, they brought in maybe Jeremy Borash, Abyss, Jeff Jarrett, that little chunk of guys. I even mentioned, I'm like, do you think they might be doing that because All Elite Wrestling is starting up and they might be looking for backstage agents and producers and other people and other veterans that might have something to offer, you know, behind the scenes? And maybe WWE is scooping a few of them up in order to cockblock AEW from doing it. That's very, very possible. Has nothing to do with WWE being afraid of them. It has to do with them saying, we're just going to head them off at the pass because we can. And offer these guys some money and offer them jobs. Gregory Helms was another guy I think that was involved in that chunk of guys coming in. So, you know, it's definitely possible when I'm never going to deny that WWE doesn't recognize AEW exists. They most definitely do. And they've made comments. They've taken shots at it at the Hall of Fame. They've done counter programming, you know, to, like I said, to hinder them. But that has nothing to do with fear. You know, bullies, you know, aren't usually scared of people smaller than them. They're scared of people bigger than them, you know, but WWE, maybe they're just bullying AEW. But AEW's just as guilty. They take shots at WWE. Cody Rhodes smashed up the throne. He's basically declaring himself and Brandy as AEW's version of Triple H and Stephanie. You know, so I like both companies. DDP, shout out to him, by the way, because he tweeted out, he says, I don't want anybody to die, but I want to see a war. And I agree totally. I want to see a war. You know, I don't want to see it get dirty or petty or, you know, or anything like that, or malicious. I want it to be good, spirited, hard competition. And if we get that from both companies, then, you know, because sometimes back in the day in WWE and WCW and WWE, you could feel the hate, you know, and I don't want to see AEW and WWE hate each other to that degree, you know, because there's people in WWE that wanted to literally murder Eric Bischoff. I don't ever want to see anybody have to want to murder Cody Rhodes or the Bucks or Kenny or Tony Khan or any of those guys. I just want it to be spirited competition with the companies taking little shots here at each other every now and then and trying to out program each other, trying to out-wrestle each other. The talent can get involved in this too. You start getting wars with the talent, they start beefing with each other on Twitter. That's going to be fun. That's something we didn't have back in the Attitude Era, back during the Monday Night Wars. Could you imagine Goldberg and Austin having a Twitter beef in 1997 or 98? Better than that? Holy crap. Tell me that wouldn't be fun. Think of all the other people. Imagine, I shouldn't say this because I love her and it's horrible what happened, but imagine China, with a Twitter, or anybody else that was, just a little bit out there in WWE. Plus, with all the drugs going on in the business back then, oh my God, you got a guy dumping half a bottle of Vicodin down his throat and then tweeting. We missed out. we definitely missed out. But anyway, speaking of Cody Rhodes, by the way, I did mention that he is going to be getting the title shot against Chris Jericho at Full Gear. I like this. Now, I had mentioned when Jericho first won the title, I'm like, he should hold it just for a quick, short time because he's old and he's not going to be wrestling super full time, but maybe just hold it for a few weeks, drop it on TNT. But now I feel like they're not doing that. I think what they're doing is saving him for Omega. And Cody Rhodes, since he is such a big part of that company, and he's an executive, I would not be putting the belt on him right now. I wouldn't want to start that this early. I mean, Cody is a world title, contender for sure. He's undefeated in All Elite Wrestling, so statistically, he does deserve a shot at the title, but I think he's going to lose. I think they're going to get this out of the way now, and Cody's day will come down the line. After that belt gets some lineage, maybe a year or two out, you give it to him then. He can have the big emotional moment like when he won the NWA title back at All In. And if they do that moment where he wins the belt, it can be a big thing for him. I think they should save that, So don't do it here. Have Jericho continue his run. He does, we got to have a rubber match at some point with Omega and Jericho. Omega's on a losing streak. He might continue to be on one when he faces Moxley and Moxley beats him. Maybe he's got to do like a redemption story and he eventually builds himself up to where he gets a title shot, goes on a winning streak, faces Chris Jericho for the title, rubber match. Each guy has won a bout. And Omega wins because he kind of is the centerpiece of that organization. He's the guy that we thought was gonna win that title right out front, right off the bat, be the first champion. And maybe they're saving his moment for down the line. So I kind of think it's gonna be in that direction. And now that I think that, I'm more and more maybe optimistic that Jericho may be champion in January. And I'm gonna be on that Jericho cruise, the rockin' wrestling raging cruiser or whatever the fuck it is. I'm going to be there, and I'm certain they're going to do some sort of an AEW show on that boat. And if he's still champion when that comes around, that's going to be cool. I hope it works out that way. Go, Jericho, go. And don't lose that belt again. Jesus. Anyway, let me go. Before I get into Raw and SmackDown, I'll go over here and answer a couple of more Super Chats because I've missed a couple. And if I do miss any, by the way, and you let me know, I will comment on your YouTube channel or find you on Twitter or something like that, but I should get everybody in here. Chris Ludecki, thank you, brother, for the $5. You are awesome. What do you think of people on the internet wanting to see KO join Undisputed Era and bring them to SmackDown to battle Shane? That's a good idea. I don't think I've heard about that. We're going to talk about Kevin Owens here in a minute, but joining Undisputed Era and bringing them to SmackDown, I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe Undisputed Era walks out with all the belts at after the first USA show. They might be sticking around in NXT. With NXT moving to SmackDown, I would keep them there because they're a big part of it. I mean, if they weren't moving to USA Network and it was business as usual in NXT, maybe I would move them up to the main roster. But now I think they need all the talent they have, and I'd keep them there. If anything, I'd have KO join them, yes, but stay in NXT. But if you did bring him to SmackDown to maybe kick Shane's ass, that would be fun. And then they all go back to NXT together. And we'll talk about what the future holds for NXT, or for Kevin Owens, I should say, here in a minute. Addicted Chip, thank you, man, for the $2. It's interesting that AEW isn't booking big arenas. Well, yeah, they're not going to sell out like that. They probably shouldn't. I would much rather see a wrestling show in a medium-sized building sold out than a big arena not sold out, because WWE doesn't sell out shit, and I hate it. It looks like shit, doesn't it? Whenever we watch SmackDown, what does everybody say on Twitter? Oh my gosh, the top row is blacked out. There's curtains everywhere. The entire right side, the entire hard cam side is completely blacked out. We hear that all the time, and it just looks like crap. You see it on TV. You see the pictures that people tweet from the audience and stuff. Back in the day, this didn't matter. WWE's been tarping off sections for years, but now that everything is on social media, everybody sees it, and then they laugh, and, oh, they're not selling any tickets and all that. So WWE's not selling out big arenas. AEW's not going to be able to. they should hope to do similar ticket sales to WWE. So I think booking smaller arenas is better, plus it's cheaper. To book those big basketball arenas and stuff, that ain't cheap. WWE's got relationships with all these arenas, and unless you're doing a huge show, if I'm all in All Elite Wrestling, I'm putting my show in 3,000 seat arenas, because it's small, it's intimate, it looks good. I think even NXT should be a little bit bigger than it is. NXT, I kind of wish was still a small crowd, but bigger than what it is. I think it's just a little bit too small for me. So I'm thinking like 1,000 people, 2,000 people would be the most fun. I'd rather have AEW that way. I think the product will be better and it'll feel more exciting and it'll have a little bit more electricity to it. So I'm perfectly fine, and I don't blame AEW for not booking huge buildings at all, because why would you? Spaz, thanks for another one. $5, dude. You're awesome. Who do you predict will be the first ex-AEW guy to show up at NXT? The first Moxley to go the other way? I don't know. It depends. I mean, all these people are just signed, so I don't know what any of their contract statuses are. Most of them are probably on 1, 2, 3 year deals, and some of the bigger names on 5. But you can't decide that yet, because you don't know if anybody's happy. When you judge people's pushes, you just have no frame of reference yet. So I don't know. I can tell you who I would like. There's a whole bunch of guys. First guy I'd like to go to WWE, Luchasaurus, because we all love him, right? Did I miss any other ones? Oh, did you send me another one too? Thank you for another one, Spaz Phoenix. You are the man tonight. You're the champ. AEW had it easy, crapping on WWE just like the fans do. It was a popular thing. They won't be able to do that with NXT, which people tend to praise. Yeah, and that's why I like NXT being the primary competitor to AEW, is because the fans, the wrestling fans, the smarky type of, fans, we know who we're talking about here. We're all like that. I'm like that. They're the ones that primarily flock to NXT. So the fact that you've got a company or a brand that already has that type of wrestling audience, and that's who AEW is counting on to be their audience, that's going to make for a really interesting war. I'm more excited about this than if it was going head-to-head with Raw or SmackDown. Honestly, I am. Because if AEW was up against Raw, I mean, it might be a nice little nostalgia feel. Wow, Monday Night Wars again. But the Wednesday Night Wars, in terms of pure fun, that will be the most fun. Because NXT is off the hook. And if AEW performs like we expect them to, it's going to be all right, man. It's going to be all right. And then the fans, and then the AEW crazies, they can go on social media all they want and talk about how much better it is than Raw and SmackDown. I hope that it is. I hope All Elite Wrestling on TNT is better than Raw and SmackDown. I truly hope that it is. But will it be better than NXT? Speaking of Raw and SmackDown, both shows were back at Madison Square Garden this past week. I'm not going to blow through. I'm not going to go too much in detail in these results because we got to predict the clash, and this shit is pretty much obsolete by now. But I want to talk a little bit about it. The show opened up with Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out in Madison Square Garden. He is, of course, moderating the big contract signing between Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman. Comes out to a pop that only Austin gets. Only Austin. Not Hogan. Nobody else. Nobody has consistently got that pop like Austin. Not even The Rock. Nobody. And when that glass shatters, it's on. So he comes out there. Cool to see him in that ring. Many great moments, which he documented and chronicled. Talked about his great match with Bret Hart, the Survivor Series. Talked about him stunning Vince McMahon a year later. Maybe a couple of other things that he did there. And just the crowd listened to him. Like they were, if you remember, they were chanting him at first. And then they kind of shut up, which was nice. So we went out there, cut his promo. You get Seth and Strowman out there. After you get Austin cutting an Austin promo, you have to listen to these two yahoos talk. So their promos compared to Austin's were shit. And they do their thing. They talk about the match. They both sign the contract. And then they're interrupted again for, I think, the 19th week in a row by the OC. AJ and Gallows and Anderson come out there. They're talking crap. AJ starts talking smack to Austin, which is great because I'm on the live stream on Monday. And we're watching this together. I'm like, AJ's going to eat a stunner, y'all. He's going to eat a stunner. What a thrill this is going to be for not only him, but for us as fans to see Stone Cold Steve Austin stun AJ Styles. And my light just went out. Man, I even have lighting technical difficulties up in here. So I apologize if I just went a little darker there. I probably did. I can get up and fix that, but if you don't care, we'll leave it at that. But when AJ was talking smack to Austin, we knew he was going to get hit with one. We knew he was going to eat one. It was awesome. So after Austin, they're doing the asshole chant to him, and Austin does the line, you know, you got 18,000 people calling you an asshole. And all AJ says in return is like, maybe you're the asshole. And then he gets in the ring and fucking eats a stunner. It's great. He sells the thing all through commercial. They come back and he's got to face Cedric Alexander in a one-on-one match, which would lead to a disqualification when the OC interfered. The whole shebang led to this big 10-man tag main event where you had Cedric, Strowman, Seth, and the War Raiders taking on AJ and the OC and who the hell else? Oh, and Rude and Ziggler. So big 10-man tag in the main event. The baby faces won, and if you notice, they must have been running short on time because we were watching on the stream, and I'm looking at the time. I'm like, shit, there's 2 minutes left. The minute Cedric Alexander, who the babyfaces got the win, by the way, was Cedric Alexander pinning AJ Styles after a sweet lumbar check, hits him with that. AJ sold it like Candice LeRae on that independent footage that's floating around out there. Sold that like a boss. Cedric pins him for the 1-2-3, and immediately as the ref's hand comes down for 3, Austin's music hits. It seemed like it was Cedric's theme music. Austin comes down to the ring. You got about a minute left in the show. He's calling for a bunch of beers, and they all do a big beer bash together, all the baby faces. Think of the thrill that must have been for a team like the War Raiders, you know, who not long ago weren't even in the company, you know, or just indie stars, and they're in the ring toasting beer with Austin in Madison Square Garden. Cedric Alexander must have been made a mess out of his pants. He had been so excited. Not a horrible moment for Strowman and Seth either, although they're established huge stars where the other guys really aren't. Really cool. So they did the big beer bash. Feel-good moment. The only regret we really have about Raw is that we didn't see Bray Wyatt attack Stone Cold Steve Austin, because the rumor is that Bray is going to be getting a title shot at Hell in the Cell against Seth or Strowman or both, and it would have been a perfect opportunity for him to come take out another legend, and what better legend than Austin? And he should have taken out both Austin and Undertaker. He didn't take out either one of them. Huge disappointment for the Madison Square Garden shows. It's like WWE doesn't have any guts, man. You know, come on. It would have been so awesome. Austin would have done it. Taker would have done it. But anyway, we didn't see that, and Austin was there to do his thing, and I was hoping he would get a little bit more involved. But I think WWE's kind of positioning and treating Steve Austin as their new Babe Ruth now. I think Hogan is out, Austin is in, and it's nice to see him around. And plus, he likes being on TV right now because he's got the deal, you know, the reality show on USA and all that. So good co-promotion there, and I hope Austin never leaves. I hope we always see him, you know, 2 to 6 times a year on WWE TV. I'll never get tired of it. And the dude's still in good shape, too. Let me see here. I don't know if I want to mention that. There is a story out there, but I don't know. You gotta dig on the facts on this. There's a story out there reported by Ringside News that Luke Gallows may have been outed as having like a little side chick, some sort of drama going on there that I did read about, but I didn't feel comfortable with the sources to, you know, really report on that. But there is some of that floating around. If you want to research that yourself, you're welcome to. The other huge news on Monday Night Raw was the King of the Ring. King of the Ring semifinals were taking place on Raw and SmackDown Live. On Raw, they were doing the triple threat. That was Ricochet, Samoa Joe, and Baron Corbin. This match was, I want to say surprisingly, but really not surprisingly good. I'm starting to turn a little bit on Corbin. I don't want to admit it. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but it's true. And I think the fans are feeling the same way. If you notice, the audience in the Garden were actually chanting, "We want Corbin." There was like a battling chant. There was, "We want Corbin" and "Corbin sucks." You know, the fans are starting, I guess, just lighten up on him, and I think some of that go-away heat is starting to evaporate away, and it's turning into, like, real heel heat, you know, because the guy is, you know, pretty comfortable and decent on the mic, and he doesn't seem to sweat the stage, and he, you know, he's like got that MJF attitude, although MJF is much better, but he's got that just smugness about him, and he just treats everybody like shit, and it's kind of working for him. And a lot of fans have been very cynical about the King of the Ring. We talked about this last week in the podcast. A lot of them are been telling me in tweets and social media and stuff that they're convinced 100% that WWE is going to put the crown on Corbin. That's what they're going to do. They're going to fuck us over and put stupid-ass Corbin on the throne and all of this. And they're so convinced of this. And I'm not saying they're wrong at all. We could very well see that, but I'm not sold on that whatsoever. You know, because Baron Corbin just got his stupid title shot at Extreme Rules, and he was involved in that. He even disappeared from TV for a little while because I think WWE realized the fans were sick of his face. So if you're going to have him win the King of the Ring, that spot should go to somebody that's going to birth an opportunity for them. And who's the guy on the other side that he's going to be taking on now? Incidentally, the way he won was Ricochet hitting the 630 on Joe. And then we see this a lot in triple threat matches. This one was pulled off pretty well. As soon as he hits the 630, Corbin grabs him, yanks him out of the ring, and tosses him right into the audience. And then Corbin slides right in the ring, pins Samoa Joe, gets the victory, and he's now in the finals. So that made everybody assume automatically, well, that's it. He's going to be the king of the ring, but not so fast, man. You know, when you look at the other side, and we'll talk about SmackDown in a minute, I think Gable is the more likely choice here. And I think Gable would be an awesome king of the ring. Somebody different. I think the king of the ring sometimes is better with heels because they can brag about it and be a douchebag and everything. But Baron Corbin, I hate saying this phrase because I hate when fans say it, but Baron Corbin doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need to be the champion. He'll be there one day, or he doesn't need the king of the ring. You know, he can probably get title shots in the future without this thing. He's already gotten them before. So it doesn't seem like I would like the king of the ring maybe to be a stepping stone for somebody. And for Corbin, it really wouldn't be. So I'm not sold on him winning it. I think, and I said last week that maybe WWE is just testing the fans' cynicism. They're so convinced. And then on SmackDown, which we'll also talk about in a minute, when Shane replaced when Shane replaced Elias, you had people insisting, oh, Shane's going to win. I'm like, why would WWE book Shane McMahon and Baron Corbin in the King of the Ring finals? That's horrible. If you're going to have one of these two win the thing, they're not going to wrestle each other. They're going to beat a babyface to piss off the fans even more. So there was just no way I saw that happening. You know, but fans are real cynical, so they're just assuming Shane McMahon. I'm like, just think about it. That means we're getting Shane and Corbin. That makes no sense. So I'm not even watching SmackDown. I'm at work and I'm tweeting, he's not going to win. Gable's going to win. And then Gable beat him in the first fall and Shane changes it to 2. And I'm like, he's going to win the second fall too. You know, so it was, to me, it was we were going to get Corbin and Gable. I think we were going to get Corbin and Gable had the original match gone through. Had Elias not gotten injured, which I thought was horrible because Elias had some good matches in the King of the Ring. That one with Ali was fantastic. So I felt bad for him. But had he made the match, I think Gable would have gone over because for the same reasons that he beat Shane. Why would they do Elias and Corbin in the finals? That sucks. You know, so no, it's going to be Gable. So now that he's going up against Corbin, I'm not saying the fans who think Corbin is going to win are wrong. He may very well win. But my instinct is telling me it's going to be Gable, and they moved the King of the Ring finals to Raw. They bumped it. So they moved that over to Raw. Now it's off of the Clash. Fans' knee-jerk reaction was to be upset. And as soon as I found out on Twitter, I'm like, you know what? I'm in favor of this. I know the automatic answer that's going to pop in everybody's head. Oh, that's bullshit. They're bumping him from the pay-per-view. Disrespect to the King of the Ring and all this. Because that's just, you know, the instinctive answer. But when you think about it, it's better for it to be on Raw. If the King of the Ring finals were this Sunday at Clash of Champions, by the way, I'll be live reacting to the Clash. I didn't even mention that in the opening this Sunday, so join me on the YouTube. But if you do that, how important is that match going to be at the Clash? It's going to be 5th and most important at best between all 4 world titles, probably coming before that. Hell, even Rowan and Roman might even be a little notch up higher on the totem pole than that. So you go from being a lower to mid-card match to a main event on Monday Night Raw. What if they make the King of the Ring finals the main event? I hope they do. I hope it's none of this top of the hour shit. Or if they open with it, well, opening with it might be okay. But if they close with it and you have Corbin and you have Gable and you put this little dude over and you give him his moment, he's an Olympian. He should be a star. You know, he's been being wasted. To me, this is a perfect opportunity to make Gable. You know, plus he's strong as hell too. He starts giving those Germans to Baron Corbin. That's going to be great stuff. So you put that match on Raw now, and if you make it the main event, then it feels like a little bit more important because a lot of the fans, when the King of the Ring was announced, I had people telling me, it's bullshit. It's not a real King of the Ring. The King of the Rings they've done in recent years have sucked with Wade Barrett and Sheamus. Tournaments haven't been very good. It's not a pay-per-view anymore. They're just doing it on Raw. You're right. All of that is true. But that doesn't mean WWE can't improve upon that. I miss when King of the Ring was on pay-per-view. I'd be happy to dump Money in the Bank and put King of the Ring in its place, but that's not where we're at anymore. So the best WWE can do is if they want to resurrect the King of the Ring, just do a better job with it. And they did. This was a great tournament. Who the hell had this final? Raise your hand. I want to see you. Because I want to see the genius that you are. Because there's no way anybody predicted the tournament going this way. There was bracket busters left and right. Extremely unpredictable matches and very good matches. We had a half a dozen great matches in this tournament. A lot better than previous King of the Rings, to be honest. And in those early days of King of the Ring, a lot of those early round matches were obvious. You knew who was going to win them. You know, you had guys losing first round matches that you expected to win. That happened more than once. So to me, provided Gable wins, if they screw all this up and put it on Corbin, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. Even though I'm turning the corner on Corbin, I don't necessarily want to see him King of the Ring. I think it would be better served for it to be Gable. So if they go through with this, it turns out to be Gable, he wins on Monday, I'm going to consider this King of the Ring a success. A total success. Great matches, unpredictable finishes, awesome winner at the end. Beats the bigger, stronger asshole heel in the finals. Big moment. Hopefully will lead to a title shot or something. If they're going to keep Johnny Gargano in NXT, maybe you need a new Johnny Gargano on the main roster somewhere. And you have Gable into maybe fill into that role that they may have had pre-selected already for Gargano. There was a lot of talk about Johnny Wrestling coming up and working with Daniel Bryan. So maybe you can put Gable as the King of the Ring and work him into a program there sometime in the future. There's all sorts of great opponents he can work with. And, the sky's the limit because they're about to do a draft next month. So all this talent can move around. The champions could move. You know, before every fan is so quick to say, oh, Brock's just going to show up on SmackDown and take the belt from Kofi. I don't know. Kofi might be on Raw. Universal Champion might be on SmackDown by the time we get to the draft. I don't know. So a lot is up in the air right now, and that's exciting. I'm ready for it all to kind of fall in place, and I'm ready for WWE to stick with it, and hopefully they will. What else do I have here written down for Monday Night Raw? We had the big tag team match, pretty big match for Madison Square Garden. Charlotte and Becky Lynch taking on Bayley and Sasha in a tag team match. Charlotte and Becky won. Charlotte pinned Bayley in the finish there, which might be a good omen for Bayley retaining the title at the Clash, and I'll be predicting that here in just a minute. So that was kind of a interesting match, and you had all four horsewomen there doing their thing. And when you think about long-term where they're going with all these women, Sasha and Bayley, do you think they're going to build to a WrestleMania match next year, or do you think they do something before then, or do you think they never break up? Do you think all four of these women eventually get on the same page by the time we get to next year in the Royal Rumble, and maybe Ronda Rousey comes back and she brings Baszler and her girls with her, and you got four horsewomen versus four horsewomen? I mean, Duke and Shafir are ready, right? Bring them. Do it. Do it now. But if you have long-term plans for Sasha and Bayley, then maybe that wouldn't work out. I don't know there. But pretty big match, pretty big thrill, I guess, for those four women to work a match together in Madison Square Garden. Good for them. And, yeah, like I said, I'll talk about those women's matches in a minute. And I think I've got my firm pick on who I think is going to win both. Before I get to one of the more interesting parts of Monday Night Raw, I just want to mention two quick matches. Rey Mysterio over Grand Metalik. They did that match. I thought was another cool match to have on paper in the Garden. I was like, wow. That's going to be awesome. Maybe a little bit underwhelming, but still good match. Still good to see Rey Mysterio back, and he, of course, got the victory in that. And Natty got a nice 50-50 booking victory over Lacey. Beat her with the sharpshooter. Lacey knocked her out and pinned her, I think, the week before. I like Lacey in this role. You know, I will say this about Lacey. I like her. Like, there's something just appealing about her. I'm not a huge fan of the gimmick, but she has, you know, when people say, like, that it factor, like, I'm not saying purely from an attractive or sexual standpoint or anything like that, but when I see Lacey, I'm attracted to what she has to offer. I think she's there. She's got that, like, foundation of a star. I like when she comes out, I like seeing her. I think she's relatively good on the mic, even though she's got that kind of dumb gimmick that she does. She's got a really good look, and I think in time, the greenness will not be so green. She'll get better. She'll continue to improve. And I like her in this role a lot more than what they were doing when she initially came in and was working with Becky Lynch right off the bat. I'm like, whoa, this is way too fast. You know, because you're taking people, because people praised, all of you. Everybody did. People praised Lacey Evans. When she got to the Royal Rumble and made her debut there and had a pretty good showing, we all praised her. Great, awesome. But then when she got brought up to the main roster and was being featured prominently, the fans were like, oh, too much, too fast. We don't like her anymore. All of a sudden, she's green. I've tried to give Lacey the benefit of the doubt, and I think she has the potential to be a major women's star in the company in the future. Maybe not right now, but she's getting better, getting some matches under her belt. And like I said, she's got a great look. And maybe some of what she does can be tweaked up and she takes on a new persona in years down the line or whatever. But I think she's athletic enough. She's got the mic ability. She's got the look that WWE wants. Everybody talks about that blonde hair, blue eyes thing, which I think is bullshit. But the fans like to say it and it sounds cool. So if that's the case, that also helps Lacey out because she's got blonde hair. So I like her, and I like that she's just kind of in these mid-card programs right now and matches, because that's quite frankly where she needs to be, at least for right now. And who knows, once they do this, a draft again, and she lands somewhere, maybe she can get a little more traction somewhere. And finally, I want to talk about the Firefly Funhouse, because we had a brand new Firefly Funhouse. Lots of crazy shit. Typical episode. Bray saying weird things, being funny. But the biggest thing to come out of the Funhouse episode is the riddle that was given to us. He talked about Seth Rollins. He talked about Braun Strowman. He might have, I don't think he talked about The Undertaker, but he did talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin. He had a little clock, like a little alarm clock that had 316 on it. And he goes, you got to change that, I think, to 11:19. Or maybe he didn't say 11:19, but he smacked the clock and set it down, and the time changed from 3:16 to 11:19, which immediately had the fans speculating, what the hell does 11:19 mean? And people right away on Twitter were like, Undertaker, Undertaker, Undertaker. And when you Google The Undertaker's debut, it was on November 19th of 1990. That was his first match, but his debut was at the Survivor Series of 1990, which took place on November 22nd. As a matter of fact, I did a whole video, mic drop, a couple of weeks ago, about why I think The Undertaker should retire at the Survivor Series next year, because the 22nd, November 22nd, 2020, falls on a Sunday. And it's not even Thanksgiving weekend. So WWE should book that date for Survivor Series, and that should be The Undertaker's last match. 30 years to the day when he debuted. But here's the problem. They taped a set of TVs 3 days before Survivor Series, on like Monday or Sunday or whatever the hell it was. So and Taker worked that show. So he worked before his debut because the show was going to air after his debut. So technically, in the record books, he debuts on November 19th. But I just do not think that 11:19 has anything to do with The Undertaker. I mentioned in the opening of this podcast that possibly, if Clash of Champions runs for 4 hours and 19 minutes, it will be 11:19 on the East Coast. If we want to sit through a pay-per-view that long, maybe they can time it to where you do Seth and Braun in the main event, and then you wait till 11:19 and the lights go out and the Fiend appears or something like that. I don't know, but that's far-fetched. So I still, aside from the Undertaker thing, which I just don't see it happening, I don't see it being about The Undertaker. It could be about could just be about November of 2019, so it could be any day in November, I suppose. But I really would hate to think that WWE would change Undertaker's debut. I want them to officially recognize his debut at the Survivor Series. Because if they now acknowledge this, that he had a TV taping a couple days before, it ruins it, you know what I mean? So I'm just not sold on 11:19 being about The Undertaker, because if it was, it would have said 11:22. Because 11:19 in November of this year is like a Tuesday, so that's not significant. At least the 22nd would be a Friday, right? At least that would, maybe be another clue. So I don't think it's Taker related. And plus, we would see on SmackDown, Undertaker appeared and nothing happened. So I don't know what the 11:19 means. I haven't even really read any other fan theories or any other speculation what you guys think it might mean. I have no idea. But I like it. I like the fact that we have a riddle. I like the fact that we have something to think about, and there's something that clearly has a meaning behind it that we now as fans have to figure out. If you add 11 and 19 together, that's 30, but what does 30 mean? So there's lots of, I even flipped it upside down. I'm like, okay, 6111, what the hell does that mean? Nothing. So I don't know what the hell it is, but I like it. I like that they're trying to throw us off. And maybe, if it is Undertaker related, on 11:22 would have been too obvious, because you can just look that up. So maybe they're counting on, the fans, some fans being able to figure out that, oh, maybe he technically had his first match a few days before. But I'm hoping, my actual real hope here is that it's not about The Undertaker. When it comes to The Undertaker, Bray Wyatt putting him down is going to be excellent for his character. It's going to be really good for his character. But I don't know if I necessarily want to see it in a match or anything, or a big full-fledged program. I would have just liked to see him come out and attack him on SmackDown and be done with it and put him out. And then we don't see The Undertaker for like 8 months or something. And then he comes back, and who knows where Bray Wyatt will be by that point, if he'll be ruined by then or not. So I don't know what the 11:19 means. If you guys have any ideas, is it Hell in a Cell related? What could it have to do with? I really don't know. But it's interesting, and it's fun to be able to try to speculate on it. And I got a cat walking in here. No, you are not allowed to come here during the podcast. Go away. Go away. This isn't a live stream. Live streams, you can sit right in my lap. Dude. There, trying to get him out of here so he does not interrupt. Anyway, and both, by the way, for those of you who don't tune in on my live streams every Monday night when I'm up here reacting to Raw, I have 2 cats, and they're both assholes. And one of them is making noise right now because I'm talking, and he thinks I'm talking in a thin air, so he wants to talk back. But in the streams, they'll be jumping all up here and jumping in my lap and everything. It's a pain in the ass. So hopefully he will just leave us alone because we're busy. It's date night, Friday night date night with GoodMicWork and his subscribers. Let's move on to SmackDown Live now before we start predicting the clash. We talked about the King of the Ring finals, or the semifinals on Raw. They had the other match that was scheduled for SmackDown between Chad Gable and Elias. Elias was injured, and WWE announced prior to the show on Tuesday that he would be pulled from the match and replaced by somebody later on. And a lot of fans were like, oh my God, if it turns out to be Shane, because if you remember, Shane McMahon replaced Miz or something in the World Cup when he won that shit. So a lot of fans were automatically thinking that, and that's when they were all telling me, because I wasn't at home and I was reading this on Twitter, holy shit, Shane McMahon's going to replace him and then he's going to win and it's going to be Shane and Corbin. And I'm like, Shane and Corbin makes no sense. Shane could replace Elias, but I don't think he's going to win. So he did. He announces himself as the replacement for Elias. Gable beats him quickly. This match went on last, by the way. Gable hits him with the German and pins him. 1, 2, 3. Kevin Owens, by the way, is the referee for this thing. So he pins Gable, or he pins Shane McMahon super quick, and then Shane gets pissed and does the typical thing, goes on the outside of the ring, because there was still like 7 or 8 minutes left in the show. So you knew it wasn't going to end there. He rolls outside of the ring, gets on the mic, and goes, no, this is now a 2 out of 3 falls match. And in one part of the angle here that I don't like is that Kevin Owens has been making a big deal on TV lately about how these fines have been affecting him. He's almost been begging, pleading, groveling with Shane to give him a break, maybe reconsider fines. Something that I have not liked, because a lot of people have been comparing this storyline to like Austin and McMahon. Let me tell you, Austin would not be acting like Kevin Owens. He wouldn't be begging, oh, I got a family to feed. He wouldn't be doing that. He'd be like, no, fuck you. So I don't really like that Owens is doing that. I don't like the fact that they're trying to get sympathy for Owens. Owens is a badass. He's a shit talker. I like him in that role. I want to see him fearless of Shane McMahon. I want to see him outperform Shane McMahon on the mic. Get them both in the ring, cut a crazy, because Kevin Owens can cut a promo. We know that. And instead, he's just kind of being a little bit of a sap, and I don't like it. So Shane basically convinces him to be the evil referee. Now he's got to, unless he wants to get fired or be reprimanded or whatever the hell Shane told him, he's got to now call the match in Shane's favor. So now he's fast counting Gable, and he's trying to make Gable lose. But Shane still cannot, even with a referee on his side, Gable still locks him in the ankle lock, and Owens is sitting there like, what do you want me to do? And then Shane taps, and Owens is like, okay, the bell has to ring. I tried to help you. I tried to do a fast count, and Gable kicked out anyway. And after the match, Shane gets pissed, attacks Kevin Owens, beats him up, and then gets on the mic and says, you're fired. And Kevin Owens is storyline fired on TV. He would then go on to tweet. What did he tweet out? The numbers. Do I have the numbers? Whatever the hell he tweeted out. He tweeted out 3 numbers, which if you correspond those numbers to a letter in the alphabet, it spells out NXT. So there's talk now of Kevin Owens maybe going to NXT. But I want to see him get his revenge on Shane. To me, this whole issue with Shane McMahon is leading to another match, probably at Hell in the Cell again. Where maybe Shane's career, maybe there's a career on the line or something like that. And Hell in the Cell is going to be still 4 weeks away from now, so maybe there's time to get Kevin Owens over to NXT, make some waves over there, give them a boost and some buzz going into their show on USA, and then maybe he comes back to the main roster to get revenge on Shane in a few weeks. I don't know. But Kevin Owens is not for real fired. We know that. But I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't know if he's going to go to NXT or not. If he shows up there, I think it's going to be great. But you have to remember, Kevin Owens he's been acting like I said, a sap. He's been doing whatever Shane McMahon wants. He's been allowing Shane to use him and force him to do things he doesn't want to do. And he just hasn't been acting very tough in all of this. Instead of kicking the crap, this is the same guy that headbutted Vince McMahon, split his head right open on TV. He wasn't worried about fines back then. What the hell's wrong with him? So I'm not really a fan of this Kevin Owens. I don't like him. I don't like him groveling to Shane. I get that it's supposed to give him sympathy and make us really want to see him get revenge on Shane, but for me, it's annoying. For me, it should be him just beating the hell out of Shane McMahon right now instead of all this. So it might just be a vehicle to get him over to NXT for a little while. That might be good. And if he does show up there on the first ever show on USA, maybe he helps Roderick Strong win the North American title from Velveteen Dream. Might be fun. So I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I hope it gets better because I'm not really, honestly, a huge fan of it. Also, Undertaker was on the show, like I mentioned earlier. Pretty sure he opened it, right? Didn't he open SmackDown? And he was interrupted by Sami Zayn. Not The Fiend, not Bray Wyatt, but Sami Zayn. Great. We know where this is headed. Sami cuts a promo, and he gets chokeslammed for his efforts. Really good promo with Kofi and Orton. Little segment there. Kofi's in the ring cutting a promo, talking about his match with Orton on Sunday. Orton shows up in the crowd, and he's cutting a promo back, talking shit. Kofi jumps the barricade. They start brawling, and they basically do a repeat of back in 2009 in Madison Square Garden when Kofi hit Orton with the boom drop off of the I guess the balcony there through the table. That was right in the middle of their feud that Randy Orton put the kibosh on. So they redid that spot after Orton and Kofi are brawling. Orton was actually holding onto a chair, so when Kofi attacked him, Orton was able to tattoo him with the chair, but Kofi got the upper hand, put Orton on a table, went back up just like he did 10 years ago, and boom, dropped him right through the table. Pretty cool stuff and pretty cool moment there. I still think Kofi's days are up. I mean, a lot of people are having him retain here. A lot of people are got this Brock idea in their head, and I'm just not sold on that either. It's like the Corbin thing. It's real easy to say, but if you analyze it, I'm like, would they really bring Brock in right now? They would have just kept him Universal Champion and then moved him to SmackDown in the draft or whatever. I don't know if he really comes in and wins the title right now. I think Brock hangs back, or if he does show up, it's not going to be title related right off the bat in my head, because I think Randy Orton's going to beat Kofi. I think Randy's going to beat Kofi, because you also have to think, like I say about everything, you got to think long term. So if you put the belt on Brock right now on October 4th, I'm going to be in Staples Center to see that live. That would be a cool moment to see, but I don't know if I want to see it, And if you do that, then okay, that maybe sets up an intriguing Survivor Series match, possibly, but it also sets up an intriguing Survivor Series match if you have Randy Orton win. Because if Randy Orton wins the title, you can do the blow-off in the cell. You do Randy and Kofi maybe in the Hell in the Cell or at Hell in the Cell, either way there. You could also put Shane and Kevin Owens in the cell. There's a lot of things you could do. So whether or not that match happens in the cell or not, I think you do the blow-off there, have Orton win, give Kofi his rematch, Orton beats him, moves on to Survivor Series. If you put that title, the Universal title, on Bray Wyatt at Hell in the Cell, you've set up now a Viper and Fiend match, champion versus champion at Survivor Series, which will be yet another icon that Bray can put down. He can win this one. Randy Orton beat him at WrestleMania. It's receipt time. And it would be an intriguing match because you've got Randy Orton that's so evil and vicious and malicious and conniving, and they call him the Viper, and he's done some pretty sadistic stuff. And now you got this crazy character in Bray Wyatt. I think that might be a fun clash. I think Orton and the Fiend would be more fun than Brock and the Fiend. Because whoever the Fiend faces needs to be winning. He needs to be winning his matches right now. So if you give him the belt at Hell in the Cell and he beats Seth and Strowman in maybe a triple threat match, which I'll speculate on later, and then you go with him and Orton one-on-one and Orton puts him over. Daniel Bryan put over Brock last year. Same thing. Just have a really good match and have the Fiend win this one and put down Randy Orton. I think that would be great. So I think that would be fun. That's kind of why I'm predicting in my head. That's why I think, and I'm going to predict here later on, that Randy Orton beats Kofi. I think his time is up. What else do we have on SmackDown? We had Bayley defeating Ember Moon. She had a little stare down with Charlotte after the match, who was on commentary for that. Miz defeated Andrade with Nakamura on commentary, who then attacked Miz after the match there. Nikki Cross defeated Mandy Rose in a one-on-one match. They've got a tag team title match against Mandy and Sonya at the pay-per-view there. So that was kind of a little build-up to that. I don't know if I really like this Mandy. I mean, the Mandy Rose character is the same. And good point, Mr. E. Randy Orton, you got to remember, could also switch brands. A lot of guys could be moving around. So Randy Orton could wind up going to Monday Night Raw, and you could have the other champion move over. So there's lots that they could do. The draft is really going to shake a lot of things up. But getting back to Mandy Rose, one thing I'm not just sure if I like is just her care. We've seen so many of these type of women. I'm better than you. I'm so beautiful. This type of stuff. And, for her saying things like, you'll never look, what'd she say to Nikki Cross? You'll never look like me. She said that shit on like National Suicide Prevention Day. Maybe not the best day to be telling other girls how inadequate they are. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm being oversensitive there. Now, maybe that's too PC. I don't know. But I don't know. I just think that type of character is like played out with the women. We've seen so many of those. But that's the deal. When somebody like Mandy, there's only one thing. She looks like a bombshell. She's blonde and big, everything, and very beautiful. So that's going to be her gimmick naturally. Like Emelina and Eva Marie and any other woman like that. Sable, among others. So I don't know. I just don't know if I like it. And I don't know if I see her and Sonya winning the titles. And I'm going to predict that match in a minute too. But as of now, I'm thinking I'm keeping the belts on Nikki and Alexa. And the only other thing I have written down for SmackDown is Heavy Machinery beating a couple of local jobbers there, which I think were some indie guys. One said Alex Keaton, which reminded me of Family Ties. Google it, kids. Which leads us to Clash of Champions predictions. I have 11. 10 plus 1 matches written down for this. I don't know if they're going to add anything last minute. Probably not, but 11 matches with probably 2. How many do you think we're getting on the kickoff? I'll tell you the ones I'd like to see in the kickoff. Cruiserweight title, obviously, and I have no interest in The Miz and Nakamura. I'd throw that one on there too. And then everything else keep on the main card. We'll have to wait and see what turns out to be on the kickoff. But we'll start with the Cruiserweight match, triple threat. Drew Gulak taking on Humberto Carrillo and Lince Dorado. I'm going with Drew Gulak to retain there just because. U.S. title officially announced. Cedric Alexander defending the title. I'm sorry, AJ Styles defending the title against Cedric Alexander. Cedric got the pin on AJ in that 10-man tag on Raw. I mentioned last week that I think a U.S. title match between AJ and Cedric would be awesome. And Cedric, it would be awesome if he could win the belt. You know, AJ, you got to remember, he's 42 years old. Put some young guys over, man. You know, give him some rub. This would be such a great opportunity for Cedric to win the title and take the title because they put the U.S. title on new guys all the time. Remember when Cesaro came in and won it like immediately? You know, the title is just passed around so much. But if you can beat a quality opponent, if you can beat a Hall of Famer, multiple-time world champion in multiple promotions, and you can beat that guy for the title, that would be an excellent moment for Cedric. But given the fact that he pinned AJ on Raw, I think AJ retains here. I think maybe Cedric still gets the belt, but not at Clash. And AJ escapes this match with the title, maybe drops it to him at the Cell or something. Because the Cell, we're going to be a quick turnaround here. We only have 3 weeks. The Hell in the Cell is October 6th. So the first show on Fox, SmackDown's first show on Fox is actually going to be the go-home show, 2 days before the Cell. So that's going to be right around the corner. There's time to do a match here, have AJ retain, do a rematch, have Cedric win, in my mind. So I'm picking AJ. I just mentioned Nakamura and Miz. It's going to be really hard for me to not pick the Miz. He's a 22-time Intercontinental Champion. How are you not going to pick him here? So I am. I'm going to predict the Miz to win the Intercontinental title. Don't really want him to. Don't really think he needs to. But this feud's doing nothing for me. I don't care much about it. It might be a little bit of a rebirth for Nakamura now that he is paired with Sami Zayn. And I suppose, okay, let's change here. Let's change. Sami Zayn's the wild card. Kind of forgot about him. Let's just say he interrupts here and helps Nakamura retain. Let's change our prediction in mid-prediction. Let's cut out the Miz and let's go Nakamura to retain with help from Sami Zayn. Just because I don't want to see the Miz win. This one's interesting. Oh, actually, I'm going to save that one. We're going to talk about Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross taking on Sonya and Mandy next. I just talked about that match. I'm sure a lot of people think, oh, Mandy and Sonya, it's their time. They should be given the belts. Yeah, maybe they should. But not Sunday. I'm going with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross to retain there. I still think they're rolling with that storyline with those two girls. It's going to lead to something in the future, probably some sort of a breakup, maybe a feud. Maybe they'll get split up in the draft. So for now, I'd keep the belts on them. Now I'll talk about the other tag team title match. The Revival taking on Big E and Xavier Woods of the New Day for the SmackDown tag. So the New Day will be defending. The New Day has been taken out by the Revival and Orton in recent weeks, screwing up Xavier's leg and beating up Big E pretty well. Also, they're going to be going into this match less than 100%. I think this is where you strike. I think you put the belts on the Revival. And later on, we might talk about some major heel turns going down. And it all depends on where the placement of these matches are. And that's what I say a lot in pay-per-views. And I'm really hoping that Kofi and Orton go on last. And I'm going to talk about it last. We'll move on now to Bayley versus Charlotte. SmackDown Women's title on the line. Clash of Champions was a show that her dad helped make famous. It's taking place in Charlotte. Her fucking name is Charlotte. She fucking lives in Charlotte. We should pick Charlotte, right? I'm going to pick Bayley. I think Bayley's going to retain. I don't know how. I just think she's going to retain. She's recently kind of turned heel, or has a new attitude at least. So I think WWE should capitalize on that new attitude of Bayley. What good is a new attitude if she just loses like she always does? So I would have her cheat. I'd have her crack Charlotte's head with a chair or something like that and retain the SmackDown title, because I think Sasha Banks is going to beat Becky. I'm predicting Sasha to beat Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's title. So I got Sasha winning the title and Bayley retaining hers, making them both champs. Now, if they remain champs going into Survivor Series, that's going to pit the two of them together. And plus, they, I guess they can't flop. That is interesting. With the Universal and the World titles, they can technically switch brands, right? But the women's cannot because they're called the Raw Women's title and the SmackDown Women's title. So I wonder when it comes to the draft, if whoever the women's champions are and the tag team champions are, if they can't swap, because that would be stupid. So I don't know how that's going to work now that I think about it. But if Bayley and Sasha both walk out of the Clash as champions and they maintain that in November, you got that match right now, an interesting match between two friends that are now forced to face each other in the champion versus champion showdown in November. So that could play a role, or Becky could win the belt back. Charlotte could take belt off of Bayley at Hell in the Cell instead, and you get some other match at maybe you get Sasha and Charlotte. That would be fun too. I loved the feud between Sasha and Charlotte a few years ago when they hot potatoed the belt back and forth. That was fun. If you can recreate a little bit of that in November, I'd be totally cool with that too. So yeah, I'm going Bayley to retain, Sasha to beat Becky. We've got Roman Reigns taking on Eric Rowan. We knew this match was coming. I kind of gave the fans a little bit of shit last week because all the fans were complaining, what kind of match is that for Roman Reigns? A stupid match. Rowan, are you kidding me? I'm like, what have you guys all been complaining about Roman Reigns forever? That he's always on top and that he always wins and he's always in the main event and this and that and he's always champion. He's finally working like a mid-level or a mid-card program here, and you're still going to bitch? Give him a break. He's going against Eric Rowan now. Normally, I'd 100% predict it's so weird with Rowan and Roman, I'm getting them mixed up. I would normally 100% predict Roman Reigns to win this match, but they recently made it no DQ. So now it's no disqualification. So I think that maybe you put Rowan over here. You're trying to establish him as a monster anyway. They're clearly trying to give the guy a push. So if you get Rowan over here, now that it's no DQ, he doesn't have to beat Roman clean. I think we get another piece of the puzzle, or maybe even a full-blown reveal. Or maybe they just jerk us around some more. I don't know if we're going to get questions necessarily answered. I think they might save that for TV. Whatever the big payoff here of this angle is, they might be saving that for Fox. So this might just be another piece of the puzzle. Maybe Daniel Bryan interferes, and another guy that I mentioned earlier, Luke Harper, whose contract apparently is coming up. I talked about him earlier with Impact holding Kross hostage. They're doing the same thing with poor Luke Harper here. And Meltzer had reported this week, and I don't know how much to trust this, but Meltzer had put out there that Vince McMahon just doesn't see anything in him. That's the reasoning. He basically gave an update on the status of Luke Harper, and WWE has nothing for him because specifically Vince McMahon, according to Meltzer, that should tell you enough right there. According to Meltzer, doesn't see anything with him. Okay, first of all, how the fuck do you know that? And second of all, if that is true, how dumb is that and how annoying is that? And it's one of the more frustrating things about wrestling. Same type of stuff we talked about with Killer Kross. If you don't want to let this guy go, then put him on TV. You assholes. So are you really just keeping him? Because don't forget, Luke Harper requested his release and was denied. And as a thank you to him for requesting his release, they tacked on another 6 months to his contract because he was injured. They added time to his contract. A man that's 41 years old who doesn't have time. They're adding time to his contract just to fuck with him, just out of spite. You assholes. So if anything has changed internally behind the scenes with Luke Harper, Vince McMahon not seeing anything in him, motherfucker, you put the Intercontinental title on him. He's been a big part of your company. He's had great matches in the company. Think of the Shield versus the Wyatt family, and when he won the IC belt, the dude can go in the ring. Luke Harper is a stud. You put championship belts on this guy, and now you don't see anything in him? Well, then let him go, and let him go somewhere where somebody does see something in him. And why they don't do that, I have no idea. Why would they care if Luke Harper went to All Elite Wrestling? If I was WWE, I'd be like, here, you can have him. Take him. Because we're not doing anything with him, and you guys can make him a star. Do they really? They can't be that worried that Luke Harper is going to become the next Rock, that they can't release him. If you remember back in the Monday Night Wars, when they didn't want to let any talent go to WCW, they let Sean Waltman go there. They released him so he can go join Hall & Nash on Nitro. Even back then, WWE was allowing guys to go. So why they don't do that now, I have no idea. And why they won't release them. So if something has changed internally behind the scenes, maybe if things have materialized in terms of maybe a contract extension or them having some creative plans for him, I've said I would love to see him involved in this and have the Bludgeon Brothers reunited in a faction led by Daniel Bryan. And maybe Daniel Bryan either turns the corner and has a change of heart, or he's been lying this whole time and he's been in on it. He's been orchestrating everything by declaring his innocence every week on TV He's really the mastermind behind it. If it turns out to be that, and he has help in Luke Harper, that could be great. And Luke Harper would be a great person to interfere in this match to help Eric Rowan beat Roman Reigns. But I'm not seeing it happening. To me, it just feels like Luke Harper's going to sit out his contract, and I think WWE are shitheads for doing that. But whatever happens, I think Rowan's going to get the victory here. They made it no DQ. It's a perfect opportunity for him to be able to get a victory here over Roman Reigns without, with keeping Roman strong too. And then you go to the next pay-per-view, Hell in the Cell, and you do some sort of another match there where maybe Roman wins. I don't know. But for the purposes of this match, I'm predicting Eric Rowan. Next up, I've got Seth Rollins, Braun Strowman defending the Raw Tag Team titles against Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode. Now, I would much rather this be Gallows and Anderson. I said that right from the start. A few weeks ago when they did the Tag Team Turmoil match, that it should have been them just to win and then get the title shot and win the belts back, put the belts back with the OC. But for some reason, WWE has slapped together Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode to become a tag team. And normally in this situation, I would predict Strowman and Seth to lose here. But I would rather it not be against Dolph and Roode. But how can you possibly see? I think it just sets the stage perfectly for the main event, or for the title match, I should say, with these two guys if you have them drop the belts. I don't really want to see them as Raw Tag Team Champions. I hope this doesn't drag on. And if you've put Dolph and Roode together, you're not going to put two good talents that you're wasting together just to waste them some more, I would hope. So I'm going to predict Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode to win the tag team titles. It sounds crazy. I don't know how they're going to do it. Maybe they're going to get some help, or maybe there's definitely going to be some miscommunication excuse me, with Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman, which should add a little bit of heat to their title match. And like I mentioned, since when this match was announced, I hope they go right into the title match. I hope there's no break. I hope it's like I hope it's not the tag team titles opening the show and then they wait and come back and do the title match later. I want to see these things back to back. So I want to see Seth and Strowman drop the tag team titles, remain in the ring, have the match for the title, and then that's maybe when you do Bray Wyatt showing up. I might predict a non-finish here. I'm going to predict Seth and Strowman to drop the belts, and then in their title match for the Universal title, I think maybe you do a non-finish. I think you definitely have Seth Rollins retain. I don't think you're going to take the belt off of him and give it to Brock for him to get the belt back from Brock, only to give it now to Strowman. That's just weird. It's too much hot potato. So I think you keep it on Seth, but maybe Seth doesn't beat Strowman, and you might have Bray Wyatt showing up in this thing to cause a non-finish. A double DQ, or the referee just calls for the bell and it's a no contest, double count out, whatever. No winner is declared. Bray Wyatt crashes the whole thing, and that sets up a Hell in the Cell triple threat with Bray Wyatt taking on Strowman and Seth for the Universal title, and maybe winning the Universal title at the Hell in the Cell. So that's what I'd like to see them do there, and I hope those matches come back to back, and I hope that the Universal title is not the main event. I mean, if it was and Bray Wyatt interfered, would be pretty cool, but do you want to end the show with a non-finish? That's why I think Kofi and Orton should main event, because if you're going to do a title change, and if you're going to change one of your two world titles, that should be in the main event. And I'm predicting Randy Orton to end the run of Kofi. And I've been a big supporter of the Kofi run, a lot more than other people, because a lot of people, he's a mid-carder for life and blah, blah, blah. That might all be true, but he's champion. So I've accepted him as champion, and I've tried my best to enjoy his run, and there's been parts of it that I really have enjoyed. And given what happened to the New Day, and if they drop those tag team titles later on to the Revival, and I've said this before, if you're ever going to do a New Day split, it's got to be a situation to where one or two of them are upset with another member of the group, maybe getting a big head. That's why The Rock left the nation, because he just thought he was better than everybody else. And so there's that easy conflict there. Kofi's the champion now. You can have Big E and Xavier saying, claiming that, it's giving you a big head. You thought you were better than us. You weren't part of the team anymore. And your problem was spilling over and becoming our problem. And now the people that you're feuding with are breaking our legs. It's not worth it anymore. And they turn on him and they help Randy Orton win the title. That could happen. Maybe it's just one of them. Maybe it's not both. Maybe it's Big E. We've been talking about a Big E heel turn forever. But I'm against a Big E heel turn, because Big E has too much charisma to waste on being a heel. He's just got to be a babyface. I can't see him as a monster heel. This is the guy that pours baby oil on himself and rubs his nipples for us whenever he just feels like it. It's going to be really hard to make this guy like a monster heel. He'd have to be more of a funny heel. But I'd rather him be a funny babyface. So I don't know if you do a Big E heel turn or not, just because I'm a big E fan and I love him, and I don't know if I would like him as a heel. And I'd worry that he'd turn into Rusev or something. I don't even know what the hell Rusev's doing. He might show up at this pay-per-view and attack somebody. Maybe he does. Maybe we see Rusev show up at the Clash. But if you do a New Day turn on Kofi, I definitely think that's possible. But if you do it, it's that long-term thing we're talking about again. What do you do? Where do you go from there? Then you're going to have to do the match between Big E and Kofi, which will have to happen at some point. So maybe you don't do a Randy Orton-Kofi rematch for the title to blow that thing off. Maybe Kofi transitions right into feuding with a New Day member. But on the other side of that coin, I'm also perfectly fine with them staying together, because a lot of fans might be smelling this. A lot of fans might be thinking we could get a heel turn here or a New Day split, and then they wind up staying together, and it fools us. I'm into that too. But whatever happens, at the end of the day, whether Randy Orton gets help from the New Day or from the Revival, I think he's walking out champ. And I think he's heading into Survivor Series to face the Raw champ, and I think he'll be the champion on Fox, and that's the way you should do it. Unless WWE really wants to get crazy and they do a title switch on Fox on the first show. You guys have all mentioned Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar could show up. Well, the draft hasn't even happened yet, so I don't know how he's going to show up. I don't know how you do that on the first Fox show, but maybe you do it on another Fox show. So maybe Kofi survives this, and then he survives Hell in the Cell. And then mid to late October, you got Brock drafted to SmackDown. He shows up there, matched with Kofi on SmackDown on Fox on Friday night, and he wins the title. Maybe. Or maybe he shows up randomly. I could say that the draft hasn't happened yet, so that means Brock can't go to SmackDown, but not necessarily. Wild card rule, and plus they can pull any rule out of their ass to get him over there. So I suppose it could happen. A lot of you guys are really convinced about Brock taking the belt from Kofi, but I thought Brock should have done that with the briefcase, which I think Brock should still be, because think about that. Brock Lesnar, what was the point? What was the point of him cashing in the briefcase, winning the belt, only to pass it right back to Seth? I was bitching about that. I thought that was a waste. You wasted the briefcase, WWE. He could still be holding that briefcase. Seth Rollins could have remained champion this whole time. And then Brock goes to SmackDown, cashes in on Kofi. That's how you do it. But they did it the other way. Ass backwards, as usual, like everything with WWE. So I'm not totally sold on some of these ideas. Baron Corbin's automatically going to win the King of the Ring. Brock is automatically going to, win the title on SmackDown. I'm not sold on that. I'm just not. I try to think a little bit more forward than that. So anyway, that concludes my notes. Let me go over to the chat. Let's chat a little bit before I get out of here. Every time I do one of these podcasts, they always seem to last an hour and a half. It's like my thing. Did I miss a ton of them or just a couple of them? Let me go scroll back up here now that most of the news is over. No. Oh, wow. Yeah. All right. Did I get that one? Nope. All right. There's another one. I'm going to go all the way back up here. All right. I saw that one from Spaz. All right. We're going to start with answer some of these super chats and answer a few more questions, and then I am going to hit the road. Harvey Walsh, thank you very much for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. Would you ever do any WWE booking videos once in a while? Listen to your podcast, and you have some pretty cool ideas for how talent should be pushed. Yeah, I could do that. It might have to be another live form, just kind of a free form, just chat, shooting the shit, pulling ideas, and spitball and stuff, and just casually discussing something. Maybe they can do this, maybe they can do that. But I've actually produced a little video, and edit it and the whole deal. We'll see. I do have a kind of like an abridged pay-per-view review type of video coming out. It's going to be very short, and I'm going to do these kind of differently, giving you guys, it's almost going to be like reasons to watch this pay-per-view. It's one of my favorites. You should watch it for this reason, and this reason. So it's not like a full-blown review, but it's me pointing out some cool spots in the show, little things like that, just to add content on the channel, which is what I've been working on a little bit behind the scenes. That's why you haven't seen other videos lately on the channel, aside from this day in history here or there. But that's going to change. I told you guys it will be a fun fall. Scroll down a little bit further. Spaz Phoenix, you hit me with another $2, dude. You are awesome. Shane back in next Monday. Best king in the world. Man, Shane back in next Monday. Best king in the world. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh my God. Don't even tell me that. Spaz, you can give me a heart attack. So what you're saying here is that Shane's going to insert himself? I don't want Shane inserting anything into my life. most of all himself. But if he puts himself in that match and what makes it a triple threat or something, hell no. No, you just got to do Corbin and Gable and put Gable over. That's what I'd do. I accept nothing less, WWE. I will cancel my network. No, I won't. Addicted Chip, thanks for the $2. I'm torn. Eagles game or Clash of Champions? I don't know. That's tough. If you're going to watch football or wrestling, well, you don't want to watch anything that's predetermined. So you got to watch Clash of Champions because, you know, the NFL's a work. We all know that. So I vote Clash. Dominique, thank you for $2, dude. Appreciate your support as well. What happened to Jason Jordan? I do not know. Maybe Kurt Angle should do the 23andMe and find out if he's really his son or not. Jason Jordan, I think, has actually had some really serious problems. I think it's been his neck. And there was some talk a few months back that he may be done wrestling. It might be like a Page situation, which is just horrifically sad because he's a great-looking kid. We all hated the angle with Kurt Angle. That was so dumb. He's your son? Get the hell out of here. It's 2018, and you're doing angles like this? So stupid. But that aside, Jordan's a hell of a talent, and he's got a lot of potential, and he's just physically gifted. And it's a shame that whatever's going on with him is keeping him out of action this long and could potentially keep him out permanently. I don't know the latest on him. I have not read up on what his status is in a while, probably a few months. So you guys might know better than me. Whatever he's doing and whatever he's up to these days, I wish him the best. Spaz with another one. Greg, keep your cat away from JD from New York. Does he not like cats? Is he allergic? I used to be allergic to cats until I got cats, and then I am now immune to it. Let me go all the way down here, see if there's any other super chats. And another one from Nikita. Abalakin, thank you, man. Long-time listener. Love your work. Usually I am not able to listen to your live streams here in Germany. Shout out to Germany. Thanks for checking in. But after bar shift, great pleasure. Wow, a bartender in Germany. That is awesome. I would love to go to your bar. That's cool. I'm glad that you're a fan of the work and a fan of the channel. I appreciate your support. And thanks for stopping in. I'm glad that I'm able to be up here on a time that you can see me because I a lot of times just do pay-per-view and Raw reviews in terms of a live stream. So awesome. Glad you're here. Keep in mind that going forward, once SmackDown moves over to Fox, that these podcasts are going to move over to Saturdays. Maybe I'll even start that next week just to kind of get the ball rolling on the Saturday thing. But yeah, that's when it's going to have to be, which is really going to cause a problem if I ever have a schedule issue and I'm like, oh, I'd like to do it a day early, but I can't because SmackDown airs on Friday. I might have to do a podcast here or there before SmackDown even airs, and it'll be all effed up. Hopefully that won't be a problem, though. I'm usually pretty good at being consistent. Addicted Chip, thank you for another $5, dude. You're the man. Kurt Angle adopted a son. That's right, he did. I meant to talk about that, too. Thank you for that. Thank you for reminding me. People joking on social media that it's Jason Jordan. I saw that story. Good for Kurt Angle. I think he tweeted, maybe it was an Instagram post or something like that, but I think he was the one that informed us that he did that, and I think that's great. And I've said before, if I ever came into like a ton of money or I had more money that I knew what to do with or something, I would adopt a shitload of kids. You know, to me, it's much better to don't add people to this earth, you know, try to take care of the ones that are here, you know, and if I had like millions and millions of dollars, I'd adopt some kids and give them a good home and give them good education and all of that. I think I almost think that's like a more noble thing to do. But a lot of people, you know, you want that bond, you want that actual, you know, your blood children, you know, they want them to be yours and all of that. But in terms of just, you know, the earth and the good of mankind, I don't think adding people to this earth is a good idea. The population is overflowing, and we got 7 billion people here. We're probably gonna have, you know, we're probably gonna have close to 20 billion before most of us die. Not a good idea. So instead of crapping out kids every couple of years, take care of some of the ones that are here. So good for Kurt Angle. That's a boss move. Kurt Angle's the man. Best of luck to him and his adopted son. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for me. I am actually going to try to enjoy my Friday night tonight. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. It was a lot of fun. Next week I'll be up here. Yeah, like I said, I might do a Saturday Winged Eagle next week. I'll be up here on Sunday, right when the main card of Clash of Champions starts. I'll be reacting to all of that, and then I'll be up here the next night as well, reacting to Monday Night Raw. So it's a whole lot of my face. If I did miss any super chats, I don't think I did, shoot me a message over on Twitter, and I'll make sure to acknowledge you. Otherwise, thank you to everybody that had things to say in the chat and helped me out with a few questions I had. Thanks for the participation. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys on Sunday for the Clash. Be cool. Peace.